GRIMES show live, doing our thing once again from WBGR Sports Radio. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. And once again, I'd like to say hello to my lovely co-host, Miss LaTanya. Miss LaTanya, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
And my resident engineer, Mr. Lionel Green.
What's up, brother?
All right, brother. And I have a few other important people in the house tonight. I actually have my beautiful son Darius in here checking us out tonight. We're going to start our show called Darius and Daddy in about 2 weeks. You ready, man? He's looking at me like I'm half crazy. And I have my good friend Ron here handling the video portion and audio portion of our recording. Once again, Roland Bubba Grimes. I have my main man, I call him Bland, calling in from the great state of Florida. And Bland, if you can hear me, we're going to kick this thing off right now. We're going to talk about two things very quickly. One is, what did we learn from the NCAA tournament so far? And we're going to talk about the role of fathers in the life of athletes. Bland, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Man, it is always a pleasure. We've been trying to get you since milking season, man. I'm glad we finally pulled it off.
Yeah.
Bland, I'd like you to say hello to my co-host, Miss LaTanya.
Hi, Glenn.
How you doing, Tanya?
I'm great. How are you?
And he prefers to be called by his first name, but I never can pronounce it. So ask him how
What's
to
your
pronounce
first name?
My first name is Dujane.
Dujane?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Did I say it correctly? Did I say it correctly?
Yes, you sure did.
Okay.
All right, so look, I'm only gonna mess that up for another month, man. After that, I get it straight. Dujane, you got me, man? All right, it's a tongue twister. Look at it very quickly. What did we learn from the NCAA March Madness tournament so far, man?
Well, I think we learned that the team, if anything can happen type of scenario. I know that a lot of people didn't see Michigan State be where they are right now. You look at UCLA, nobody would have picked them coming out and doing what they did. And we see how great this tournament really is. And you know, this is why we watch, man. That's why we play the game. You know, things could look a certain way on paper, but that's why they play the games. And here we are in the Final Four, and we have some teams that are really surprising that are in the Final Four there. So, you know, it's going to be a great Final Four, and it's definitely going to set up for a great championship game.
Now, let me ask you a quick question. What is it that makes it a surprise? When you say that you had some surprises, what is it that makes a game a surprise?
Well, I think you look at a team like a Michigan State. You look at the teams that they may have faced, and they're not really. You know, some of these teams don't get a lot of airtime, like a Kentucky, maybe like a West Virginia. So you know, a lot of people don't know a lot about these teams. And here they are. They come in here. They get an opportunity to make it into this 64-team playoff, and they come in and they're hungry to make a statement, and they surprise individuals because we don't get a chance to see a lot of them. We look at the Wichita State. You don't see those type of programs, and they're not programs that are really known for basketball. So I think that's another thing that makes them a surprise as well.
Now, a couple of weeks ago, we first started talking about this. LaTanya, you were saying that being the internet service, predicted that Kentucky was going to win the whole thing. Is that correct?
Yes.
And do you remember why Bean said that Kentucky was going to win the whole thing?
They didn't give a reason, but I'm assuming they said it because they were number one. They were undefeated.
So what happens then is, if my team is number one, there's an expectation that we should win the whole thing.
Yes.
Now let's talk about that Bland. Dujana, you know I'm gonna screw it up. My man.
Dujane?
See, that's why I have LaTanya with me, because she can get it right. Dujane. LaTanya, quick question here. If a team is ranked number one, how is it that team gets ranked number one? Do you, Dujane, or do you, LaTanya, know the process and how a team gets ranked number one?
I don't know the process of that.
that's something I am not sure of. I know some people don't really like the process that goes into it. They say, I know it has to do with scheduling, their strength of schedule a little bit. It has to do with their record, of course. I know that in reference to Maryland and how they ended up being in the spot that they were in, sometimes they should have been ranked a little bit higher. And that it comes down to, there's a lot of, kind of like what the BCS used to be. There's a lot of gray area when it comes down to these judgments because it really, in some cases, is a personal judgment call.
Okay, so now, the rankings, Lionel, my engineer, the rankings are based on a group of reporters, writers, coaches, and other people who basically put a poll in place and say, this team is going to be ranked 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Now, that ranking takes place before the season even starts. Is that correct?
Yes, it does. Kind of like football.
Yes. Did you know that at the time? That the rank, right.
So what are they basing it on?
Exactly. So they're basing it on a number of factors. The season before. Now, in Kentucky's case, how the heck do you rank them?
Recruiting.
Okay, talk about it. How do you rank Kentucky number 1 before the season starts based on what they did the year before when their entire team goes to the NBA?
Well, they have blue chip recruiting.
Now they have blue chip recruits. So not only the year before, but the anticipation of what's going to happen during the season based on some information that we all don't even know how these guys are going to play as freshmen, correct? But keep this in mind. If you start the season ranked number 1, you have to lose in order to go down to number 2.
Right.
If you start the season at number 25, you can win almost every game and never make it to number 1.
True.
That's very true.
So then your seedings in the NCAA tournament is based partly on those rankings. Like you take a team like Louisville that I followed all year, they started the season ranked number 4. There was no way during the season that Louisville was a top 10 team to me. What about you?
I have to agree with that. When you look at the makeup of the team, and you look at the makeup of a lot of the other teams that are surrounding them, they really didn't have the talent level that a lot of these other teams had, for sure, if you're going to look at it in that aspect.
Yes, but by the end of the season, they were one of the better teams because they made it to the final 8.
Yep.
So then, even though they might not have been ranked in the final 8 at the end of the season, they ended up being one of the top 8 teams based on the process of elimination. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So now, on that basis, if the rankings help determine, now in football, it's even more intense because if you start the season at number 1, LaTanya, and you don't lose, you're going to end the season number 1, 99% of the time. Is that correct? And then that determines your bowl game, and then now they have this playoff, you have the top 4. And if I'm correct, in something like football especially, probably 70% of the time, whoever is ranked in the top 5 when the season starts, Lionel, I see you nod.
Don't even be in it.
No, the opposite. 70% of the people that's ranked in the top 5 when the season starts are in the top 5 when the season ends.
Basketball. Yeah.
No, football.
Yeah, football.
Basketball is a little bit different.
Yeah, because it depends on who they beat or who they lost to.
Basketball, you have a lot more opportunities to win and lose.
Yeah.
And also in basketball, you have an elimination process that
Exactly.
takes place in the tournament, and you can drop down
Exactly.
if you lose your conference tournament.
Yeah.
You might not have as much of an impact in football. So now, on that point, and you all tell me if this is making any sense to you, on that point, how then does it become a surprise when a Wichita State or someone else beats someone along the way, when the rankings are really based on someone's opinion or perception more than anything? Let me give you a perfect example. I sat right here last week and I said, hey folks, don't keep drinking that Kentucky Kool-Aid. How close did Notre Dame get to wiping Kentucky out of this thing?
Very close.
How close is close, man? Hmm.
Right.
Now, did anybody see that coming?
No. Absolutely not.
But I said it last week. that they weren't beating. Okay, they weren't beating everybody by 70 points. That somebody played them during the year and only lost by 4 or 2. And if that's the case, somebody's going to catch them along the way, and they're going to have a 2-point or 4-point game. Remember I said that last week?
Yeah, and I said it, I think the first week that one of my coworkers said that Kentucky wasn't going to win because everyone just expected them to win. And he figured that someone is going to come along and beat them.
Janae, do me a favor, man. Sit tight, hang on. I have another caller coming in. If you can, if you're near a computer, go to WBGRsports.com and you can listen in. But if you hang out on the phone or if you have to hang up, man, before it ends, give me a call back because I want to wrap some stuff up with you because I know you got some pearls for me, all right?
All right, sounds good.
All right, sit tight. Thank you for calling. You're talking to Roland Bubba Grimes here on the Roland Grimes Show Live. Who am I speaking to?
Roland, Sunny Spit.
Yes, it is. Sonny Spur, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Man, I am terrific. I want to introduce you to some friends of mine. And it's only 150 degrees in here, so I'm actually, on a diet. So I'm like in a sauna, like we were in Manley Fieldhouse. Where you used to see me when I had to drop from 250 down to 230 to play. And Sonny walked by me like, Bubba, you really not gonna lose all that weight in one session. I like. You told Andre Hawkins the same thing, right? And I was sitting next to Andre when you told him. I want to introduce you to my co-host Latanya.
Hi, how are you? I'm good.
My engineer Lionel.
What's up, man?
And Sonny Spur, you all just a brief background. See, I'm beefing with it. Just a quick background. Sonny Spur, Sonny, now you know what? I know the answer to this, but I'm going to let you tell the story. You are calling into what we know as the Chocolate City, Washington, D.C. Now, a few moons ago, we sent a team up to Manley Fieldhouse before I became an Orangeman, and we had a little party there with some Bulldogs called the Hoyas. If memory serves me correct, you were there that day.
Yeah, I was there. I mean, there was an arch nemesis. I'm going to tell you that right now. Nobody in Syracuse that you should know now, like the Georgetown Hoyas.
All right, Sonny, do me a favor and tell these folks who weren't there at that time what happened. I can say us now. Syracuse, even though I was still in D.C., Syracuse, I believe, was 55-0 in Manley Fieldhouse, something like that.
Yeah, you had the good old-fashioned home court, everything. Home court cooking. They had, refs in their favor, I believe anyway. And they just didn't lose there, and it was a nasty, vicious place to play because you were in a little oval circle, and almost like a pit, even though it was ground level, but everybody was right down on top of you. It was a great place to watch a basketball game.
It was long before ahead of its time. It was sort of like the Cameron Crazies, long before the Cameron Crazies. So,
It was way before that, but it was at a similar level, I believe.
Sonny, did you actually? I can't remember. Did you suit up for that game?
No, that was a little bit before me. That was Rosie and Louie's last game.
And you came in the next year or the year after?
I came in 2 years later. The next year was Danny Shane's senior year, and then I came in with the next group.
Okay, Sonny, I think you're getting old, man. All right. So here's the deal. It was the year before Patrick Ewing came in. So you know what? I'm getting old. You're right. It was the year before Patrick Ewing came in. So
I came in same for Patrick, Chris Mullins,
exactly. So you know what? I stand corrected, Sonny. You lived in that area at the time.
Yeah, I live in Binghamton.
So you watched that game on television, or were you there live?
I was there, but I watched it, and the hardest part, not only was losing, but listening to John Thompson say, Manley Fieldhouse is officially closed. That was painful.
Now, at that moment that took place, what happened What happened in the world of Syracuse sports the moment he said that?
Well, I think it just solidified the rivalry, and I think it was, like we want Georgetown. It was definitely. I mean, it's as good as Yankees and Boston Red Sox. It's like that's the game of the year to the point where not only do you want to play them, but you root against every team every time they play. You root against. It's just the way it is.
And it was really set in motion when John Thompson grabbed that microphone and said, "Man, I mean, and literally, Lionel, he walked over to the score. Latonya, this man, he won the game, and he walked over to the scores table, grabbed the microphone, and said in front of like 7,000 to 8,000 people, Manley Fieldhouse is officially closed at on someone else's court."
Yeah, that's cold-blooded.
Is that cold-blooded or not?
Yes.
That's cold-blooded.
And it's one of those things that you just can't take back, right? You can.
That's confidence. That's confidence.
And his players played that way. I mean, he had that aura about him, us against the world, and he built some strong teams with that mindset. That he didn't make any apologies, and he wouldn't to this day.
Now I'm going to share something with you, and I want to talk to you about what we've learned from the NCAA tournament, men's tournament so far, and I also want to talk to you about being a father of athletes. Before I do that, I want to share something with you. Reggie Williams, who also plays for Georgetown, I actually had him on one of my shows a couple of years ago, and it's probably the first time in history that an Orangeman sat next to a Hoya, and we didn't brawl. So it was real cool because he's 6'9", he can't take me. So, all right, so I'll just mow him down. So what happens is Reginald Williams explained to us that the whole concept of Hoya paranoia was created by John Thompson purposefully. Did you know that?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. Oh yeah, I believe that.
I thought it was something spun by the media.
No, I do. He liked the us against the world
That's what he said.
mentality.
That's what he
And
said.
he liked that little bit of fear. He liked people having that because he had you on your heels to start the game.
So he wanted you to think that it was life or death every time you took the court with him.
Yeah, oh yeah. And then, also Georgetown, for Georgetown team, I think it's like, I'll never forget the one thing I remember. We were at the Big East back in the day when they had the tournament at different locations. They had a special luncheon, and they set people at different tables. You had to sit amongst other people.
Right, I remember
And
that.
I was sitting with John Pinot was at my table, and Patrick Ewing was at my table. And across from me was Jeannie Walden and Gene Smith. And Gene and another, and I don't know if it was David Wingate, and I can't remember, but I know Jeannie and Jeannie, because our Jeannie Walden was busting it up. He had them laughing.
Oh no, he'll crack. He could crack you up in a heartbeat.
Oh, he was doing it. He was like, you don't even know what hotel you're staying in. Your coach blindfolds you. He got you all doing this. It was funny. And everybody was laughing. And John Thompson stood up, just stood up and looked, and every single Georgetown player bowed their head, didn't say another word the rest of them.
Wow. Sonny, we're going to take a quick station break for about 30 or 40 seconds. Do me a favor, sit tight, and we come back and we're going to talk about what we learned from the March Madness. And man, you did something real impressive. You moved your practice schedule so you could watch the games. I can't wait to hear that story. Sit tight, man. We'll be right back. We'll be right back to you.
Okay.
All right, thanks.